Newsworks in cooperation with Eau Claire County.
It is now 7 o'clock. I call to order this regular meeting of the Eau Claire County Board of Supervisors on this Tuesday, August the 17th. Next item on our agenda is honoring of the flag and moment of reflection by Supervisor Leary. Supervisors.
Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United
States of America
and to the
and to
republic
the republic
which it stands,
one
one
nation,
nation,
under God,
indivisible, with liberty and
and
justice for all.
Not bad.
Hey, we're getting
We're
better.
close. Okay.
After a year and a half, we're getting better.
Supervisor.
I wanted to, for the reflection tonight, since it's our last county board meeting before Labor Day, I thought it would be appropriate to thank and mention all the hard work that our county employees do to enhance the citizens and our way of life here in the Chippewa Valley. We're always working to improve things, but if it would not be for all of our employees and all the various jobs that they do, we would not have this wonderful place to live. So it's been a tough year. I wish I had $1 for every time we talked about it. It was just an unprecedented year. But all through, I think they've really risen to the occasion to work there and be there for us. So thank you and happy Labor Day.
Thank you. I'm sure the entire board joins you in that sentiment. Clerk McDonald, will you please call the roll?
Supervisor Gibson,
present.
McKinney,
Present.
Knight,
Present.
Pagonis,
Here.
Anton,
Here.
Zook,
Here.
Chilson, Supervisor Chilson, Stelgis,
Here.
Mowry,
You're muted.
no, you're here. Yep.
I'm here. I'm not muted.
Coffee,
Here.
Henning, Supervisor Henning, Supervisor Bates, Russell,
Here.
Gatlin,
Present.
Meyer,
Here.
Hambuck Boyle,
Here.
Neiman,
Here.
Dunning,
Here.
Wilkie,
Here.
Anderson,
Present.
Beckfield,
He's
Supervisor
on.
Beckfield,
He's on but muted.
Schneider,
Here.
Leary,
Here.
DeLuca,
Here.
Jansen,
Here.
Schroffnagel, Supervisor Schroffnagel,
You're muted.
Roberts,
You're muted, Tammy.
oh, is she there?
She's here.
Roberts is
Okay.
here.
All right. Kronk
Here.
and Christofferson.
Here.
At 26 present, 3 absent.
Henning was here. Henning was here.
Oh, okay then. 27 present.
The other
2
addition.
absent.
Thank you. Next on our agenda is approval of the Journal of Proceedings of July the 20th. Chair looks for a motion.
Henning will move.
Any moves?
Gatlin second.
Gatlin seconds. Are there any additions, deletions, or corrections to the Journal of Proceedings? Any additions, deletions, or corrections? I hear none. We'll do this by voice vote. All those in favor of approval of the Journal of Proceedings of July the 20th, 2021, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed by nay. It is unanimous. Thank you. Next on our agenda is public comment. Clerk McDonald, are you doing this?
Yep, we had one person who wishes to speak. Pa Thao,
Okay.
are you on the line, Pa? I believe I saw her on.
We have 3 attendees on.
Pa Thao, are you there?
She's muted.
Hello?
Okay. Go ahead, Pa.
Okay, good evening, Chair and Supervisors. My name is Paku Tao, and my address is 2582 70th Street, Eau Claire, Wisconsin. As the new lead organizer for Power Up Eau Claire of the Black and Brown Women Power Coalition, I want to thank you for your recent appointment of the BIPOCs individual on the ARPA task force. This is a great leap forward in being intentional about centering communities that are most impacted by COVID-19 pandemic. The Hmong community is often silent about things that we know affect us because we have been conditioned to not speak out against oppression and injustice for fair retaliation. We are taught to respect those in authority, even when they have harmed us, and instead turn the other cheek. The work that we do is in direct opposition to this narrative. We are invested in this community and in building community power by bringing to light inequality and injustice when our community is faced with it, and to advocate for and work with our community to build an Eau Claire where we can all thrive. I urge member of the community board to center people and communities that are most impacted when you are making decisions, setting process and policy, and determining representation. The ARPA task force is a great example. It is only when we work to center our most vulnerable population that we can truly thrive as a community. And I want to thank you guys so much for having me today, and thank you.
Thank you.
That was all that I have on the list.
Did we have a comment that was forwarded by email?
Yes,
Clerk McDonald, do you have that?
from Wolfgram.
Okay. Has that been shared with the board?
Yes, it has.
Okay. Thank you. And there was no other public comment. Is there anyone else online who wishes to present public comment? Anyone else online who wishes to present public comment? Any additional public comment? I hear none. We'll proceed. Next is reports to the county board under 2.04.320, beginning with the oral reports. First is the highway building update. Supervisor Dunning.
Thank you, Chairman Smyer. The Highway Building Committee was appointed in December of 2020 and had its first meeting in January of 2021. Shortly after that, RFPs for architectural and engineering and for construction manager were sent out with submissions due January 26th. The RFPs included investigating automated options, alternative energy options, the Meals on Wheels program, and the Emergency Operations Center. A funding review was presented by Purchasing Manager Bowie in February. This totaled $24.8 million that was available for construction and equipment. In addition, $1.8 million will be required for non-construction costs for total funding needed of $26.6 million. Additional property purchases from adjacent property were presented in the spring, and land on the southwest side of the highway facility was purchased. The RFP for construction manager was reviewed, and a contract valued at $708,750 was awarded to Market and Johnson. The RFP for architectural and engineering was also reviewed, and a contract for $731,300 was awarded to CBS Squared out of Chippewa. It was estimated that design would take 6 to 7 months. Extension discussion occurred on inclusion of the Meals on Wheels throughout this process on the highway project, and it was decided that the Meals on Wheels was best located in the new highway project. The design status, and at this point I'd calling on John Johnson to set up some slides showing the site plan that we have there, and toward the upper right, there's the big building. That's the main portion of it, and then the Meals on Wheels is right there where the hand is, and right in front of that is the fuel island. The salt shed is located off to the right, there next to the pond, and an unheated warehouse is located right there. And then there's some stockpiles where they will be putting things that need to be stocked. The second thing I'd like to show you is there's another layout, gives us a little conception of where things are at, what it would look like from the air, and looking at the buildings from ground level. The next map shows the floor plan of the main building. To the right is the bays of where all the trucks would be worked on. Those are there. There's also a wash bay on the far right side. The office area is to the left side, and above that is the emergency operations center, where it says break room. Excuse me. And then below that, down below, is the Meals on Wheels center. And we have another view of that one also to show the details of the Meals on Wheels. A lot of work went into that on the part of the Meals on Wheels department on the ADRC, and they had a lot of good thoughts, and it looks like they're very pleased with what is happening. The food will be coming into on the right side. There will be a loading dock on the right, and then when they load up their cars to take it out, it's back. There's an awning out the side door. The front door to the office area is a little farther up, and that will be facing the main road also. And that's the main to the office area is on the front side. So in that area right there, and that takes you into the office. So in looking at working with this design, a number of us went towards two existing sites, one in Sheboygan and one in Jefferson County, looking at ideas of what they were doing and how that fit into our plans, and looking at construction materials. And those were, a lot of things were put into place in our current building. The current bidding process brings us today. We had 5 bid packages that were issued for bidding, and proposals have been received and reviewed. 3 project bids were accepted and 2 were rejected, and these will be rebid with revised designs. The structural precast concrete bid was awarded to Fabcon with a bid of $1,947,182, and this was making use of an alternative bid that they presented to save us some money. The removal of the 2 bays in the main building, which I'll talk about a little bit later, will lower this number. The structural steel supply bid was awarded to Valley Custom Welding with a bid of $3,265,787. This was one of our more volatile bids. The week after our bid was received, the market prices went up 10%, and delivery was farther out. We're still looking at very long delivery times. It is being proposed to remove 2 bays from the original design. Where the hand is right now, that's where that is. Currently, I believe there are 12 doors, and we're going to bring that down to 11. So that will shorten the building up. It doesn't affect the operations, because I think now they have like 6 doors. So it's quite a bit of difference, and that will reduce the cost, and we'll be negotiating those prices. The fuel distribution island that's out in front was awarded to Waltz Petroleum for a bid of $589,707. The 2 bids that were pulled back were the salt storage shed, which is up there by the pond, and the cold storage building, which is down by the white area there. Both of them are going to be redesigned a little bit, and to be able to do cost reductions. The salt storage shed has an awning on one side, and it's going to be pulled back, so there isn't quite as much awning, and it will save some money there. And so the same way with the storage shed was being revised a little. So looking at budget status now, the county board originally allocated $24,350,000 in the 2021 budget to build the facility. As the project progressed and the pandemic affected the construction industry, with prices increasing 2 to 4 times the cost when the original budget was determined, the estimated cost on May 3rd was $32,607,739. And the county board increased the funding at that time in May to $32,753,000. This approval requested the construction committee to continue to find options for additional funding and reducing the cost. Now, on our new estimated budget here, the bid totals are showing on this slide. Excuse me. The estimated cost after the 3 bids was included is shown here. It now totals $34,698,219, or approximately $1.95 million over budget. This new total includes $2.3 million in design and cost escalation contingencies built into the budget. You can look up there under contingencies, and you're going to see $886,000, and an estimating design of $1.4 million. Though that comes up to $2.32 million of contingencies, and there's an additional $868,000 in construction contingencies. So if we didn't use them, it brings us back to within the budget. Any further value engineering changes will also lower the cost. And I mentioned that the shortening the building by taking out 1 set of doors, the salt barn changes, and site changes. The site has a lot less asphalt now than it did before, which improved the drainage, and does improve. It still doesn't affect our moving around the site, but it does make things and saves a lot of asphalt. Some of the value engineering that's been completed and proposed, we shortened the building by 1 bay. We went to precast panels for walls. We redesigned the footing capacity because we have a little different walls, the footings could be a little different. We removed the under slab insulation. There was an insulation under the complete building. Well, the cold doesn't reach the center, so we were able to remove some of that insulation in the center of the floor plan. We simplified the canopies above all the truck doors and the entries, so there isn't quite as much design up there. We reduced the paving in the parking lot. and we will continue to look at value engineering. In interest of sustainability, which was one of the main factors as we went through the bidding process, we are designing it for electric vehicle future. This would mean that if all of our trucks eventually became electric vehicles, the repair shops, etc., the charging stations would all be built into the buildings and ready. We probably won't have the electrical in there, but we will have the piping and the capability. In fact, I think there was some discussion about using it as an addendum to the bid process to completely wire it. So that was one thing we're looking at. We've currently included electrical vehicle charging stations in the parking lot. Because we are so close to the interstate, there might be some federal funds available that would allow us to put EV stations in the parking lot so the public can use it. We have natural light tubes in the shop areas. That was one of the things we saw in our visit of other sites, is that they have these 18-inch diameter tubes approximately in the ceilings, and the amount of light that comes in is almost natural daylight during the daytime, and it's really saves on the electrical bills. Geothermal heating and cooling are included. In-floor heating by geothermal was in the office area and in the Meals on Wheels. And we have included solar panels. And there are some funds possibly available for these sustainability items. When we looked at Focus on Energy, we look at Excel, look at these people, we're looking at possibility of getting some reimbursement for doing this. So the future schedule. I think that's coming up next. Might be a little hard to read. We just got that here yesterday or today. Bid package 2 will be going out on August 18th, tomorrow, and is due back on September 15th. This includes a lot of the construction, the parking lot, the site values, a variety of things in that, foundations. The cold storage rebid and the salt storage rebid will be part of this. Site work it hopes to start somewhere around September 23rd. The final bid package, the third one, will go out on October 15th and be awarded by November 12th. Foundations will start on October. It's scheduled for October 21st and run through December, so we should be able to get those in before winter. The final completion date is, looking at it, is planned now for first week of January of 2023. That's a little later than we had anticipated, but that includes probably the last several weeks where it's move-in time, where we move all the Meals on Wheels equipment, where we move the office equipment, the shop equipment, and all of the stuff that's got to get in. Construction will actually be done, but it'll be usable somewhere around the 9th of January. So that completes my report. Are there any questions?
Questions, supervisors?
Smyer, yes, I have a question.
Supervisor Roberts, please.
Regarding the salt shed being close to the watershed aspect with the pond, is there any chance that that could cause like environmental pollution?
I don't believe so. I think the salt shed has a floor in it, and it's all internal, so that would not be shouldn't be a problem. There is a brine setup where they will take the salt, add water to it, I suppose, and put it into the trucks where it's been sprayed onto the highways. That is on the opposite side of the pond. So that has been looked at, and there will be drainage ways of making sure that that doesn't happen.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions or comment?
This is Coffee. I have a
Supervisor
clarification.
Coffey.
Thank you. I just think, first of all, that it's wonderful that you're working on the sustainability piece as you work through this. And and I can tell that you've done a lot of work. John looks a bit tired to me, but I'm sure there's been a lot going on. My question is, I guess, as we cut the bill, and I really appreciate how frugal you're being as you work through this. Are we getting everything we need, John? Or are we missing something that in 2 years we're going to say, oh, or 5 years, we really should have this? Just would like your input on that, please.
So one of the areas in regards to reducing the bays and the shop area, we were looking at maybe a future small fleet program. So those would be some of the things that we would have to look at differently. So we wouldn't have some of that area for the small fleet program in the shop there. Those are things that haven't been decided yet either. So you try to plan for the best you can for the future. But then again, with the electric fleet coming on board, that's going to change a lot of how we maintain our small fleets as well. So we're excited about that and stepping into that with our half-ton units to start out within about 2 years. Hopefully we'll be able to have those by the time we're moved in and have those in our fleet by 2024. And I think that'll change the way we do small fleet a little bit here in our facilities, and I think there's other departments that are looking at that future as well. So.
Small fleet includes some of the vehicles that are in other departments currently that are, based on gas. So, but if they're electric vehicles, they would then be stored out there, or at least charging. I guess we're going to be putting charging stations in at the courthouse also, so that will help there. So,
Thank you.
Thank you. Great work.
Other questions or comment?
Supervisor Neiman with a question.
Supervisor Neiman.
Are the electric chargers you are putting in superchargers or destination chargers?
I don't know that. John, do you know?
From a budget standpoint, we looked at the rapid charging stations. So the technology is changing so fast that a lot of cost differences from what we see is the rapid charging stations of what are being preferred. But we don't have those details yet. That'll be coming up in the final bid pack here in October. So
I would encourage the use of the rapid superchargers. Those are the ones that are going to be the most usable, especially if you're trying to make them available for people, of the public that are coming through on the highway. The superchargers that we've seen with Tesla, we used to be able to have our pick, but now I'd say at least 2/3 of the chargers are in use when we've stopped in. So those would be good, superchargers.
Thank you. Other comment or question?
Considering how Ford is going to rapidly bring out the electric trucks, etc., this might be coming quicker than we expect. So,
Any other comment? Thank you, Supervisor Dunning.
well, thank you. Thanks to John, and thanks to the committee that's been working real hard on discussing all those things. We've had some great conversations and great contributions. So, thank you.
Thank you. Next is update on redistricting. Administrator Schauf.
Thank you. We wanted to let the board know some changes in dates, and I will go through those very briefly. We received data yesterday from the census data, and our GIS director, Peter Strand, has already been able to validate all of the census blocks. And so done the review of the census blocks, validated them, and they have begun drafting the tentative plan. Peter has been in direct contact with the other municipalities, as has Sue McDonald with her clerk group in all of the other taxing jurisdictions in the county. And that is to ensure that as we move through the compressed timeline, all of our local governments are also able to to accomplish these goals because, as I said, it is a very tight timeline. So we received the data. A couple of date changes. August 23rd is we will still be making the publication. At this point, again, we do not know that we will have completed maps for that, but we will actually have them available on our website as soon as they are available. And if they are available for other publications, because we will have 3 insertions of that notice, we will include that data with the notice. The September 14th date is the next meeting of the Committee on Administration where they will review the maps, and then on September 21st, the county will contemporaneously hold the public hearing and adopt the tentative plan. At that point, we turn that information over to our municipal partners who use that for developing wards. They then return that information back to the county, and the county continues the work to finalize the supervisory districts.
We have the timeline in front now.
Yes. Oh, it wasn't sharing before?
No, it wasn't.
Oh.
But we were following you. Go ahead.
Okay. I thought it was displayed. Apologies for that. So we've laid out the timeline. You'll note that one of the things that we did add is that we will need a special meeting of the Committee on Administration on November 2nd. That meeting will actually be then the meeting where the final plan is reviewed, the resolution prepared for adoption by the board on November 9th. One of the items that the board has on their agenda this evening is the approval of a special board meeting on November 9th to contemporaneously hold the public hearing and adopt the final county plan. So we wanted to make you aware that we have received the data. Some of the dates have changed, and we are working with our partners. I would ask Clerk McDonald if she has anything that she would like to add regarding her correspondence with our other local governments.
I don't at this time. I'm working to make sure that the ones that are going to have the most work will, be in contact with first, just to make sure that we are very careful about getting everything done and approved by their town or village boards before our deadlines here. So we're going to get this done. So looking forward to it.
That is the end of my report. If there are any questions.
Thank you. Any questions? Comment? Any questions or comment? I hear none. Thank you, Administrator Schauf. We'll proceed now to written reports, which you have in your packet. You have a report from the Finance Department on the 2021 Contingency Fund and the July 2021 payments over $10,000. Are there any questions on the written reports? Any questions or comments?
Supervisor Smyer?
Is that Supervisor Gibson?
No, it's Supervisor.
Oh, sorry, Wilson. Sorry.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
sorry, I raised my hand. It must not be working. I just
saw it. Apologies.
Okay. No problem. I just had a comment I would like to direct toward the Finance Department, Norb Kirk and staff. When I looked at the payments over $10,000, there is much more detail. We've had conversations about this in finance and budget, about individual bills totaling up to more than the threshold. And so I just want to thank him and the staff for putting this new revised report format together. It has much more financial detail that I'm looking for.
Thank you. Other comment, and I promise I will look for raised hands this time. Any other comment or question? Okay. I will move on now to item 7, presentation of petitions, claims, and communications. We have a rezoning request from owner Patricia M. Cliff Family Trust, the Cliff Family Trust, and applicant Peter J. Gartmann for the town of Washington, which is on page 5 of your packet. This item will come forward to the county board in a future meeting. Next, under item 9, first reading of ordinances and resolutions by members. The first item is not from the Committee on Administrator, but from the Committee on Administration. To make note of that, it is file 42.
An ordinance to amend section 1.04.10 or 010 of the code. Terms of office for and election of county supervisors.
Thank you. This is coming before us for first reading. This will go to the next county board meeting for second reading and a vote. Next, from the Airport Commission, file 39.
An ordinance to amend section 12.25.120A1 of the code, parking fee schedule.
This also is first reading. It will come back to this board in our next.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Hey,
Supervisor
hey,
Anning.
I've talked to Charity out at the building there, and their main goal for needing more money is to change the rates that they've charged through all these years that haven't changed, and their costs keeps going up, and they would like to have it brought up under suspension if possible, because they could use the money now and get it where they can raise their rates and be more competitive with the outlying airports that are already charging more than Eau Claire.
A motion to suspend the rules in order to take up file 39 for a vote this evening would be in order.
I'll make that motion.
We have a motion to suspend the rule in order to vote on file 39. We are not voting on file 39. We are voting on the motion to suspend the rules. Is there any comment or question about that motion?
I'll second that, Anton.
Thank you. We have a second. Is there any question or comment?
Chair Schmeier, Tim Sullivan, you need a 2/3 vote, suspending the rules.
Thank you for the reminder. Supervisors, are you, well, it's going to be a little bit fuzzy, I think. So let's do this by roll call vote. Clerk McDonald, will you call the roll on this motion to suspend the rule?
Supervisor Gibson,
Yes.
McKinney,
Yes.
Knight,
Yes.
Pagonis,
Yes.
Anton,
Yes.
Zook,
Yes.
Pilson,
Yes.
Stelgis. Supervisor Stelgis,
Yes.
Mowry,
Yes.
Coffey,
Yes.
Henning,
Yes.
Bates. Supervisor Bates, were you on the phone?
Missing.
Okay. Russell,
Yes.
Gatlin,
Yes.
Meyer,
Yes.
Hambuck Boyle, Hambuck Boyle,
You're
Yes.
muted. There you go.
Neiman,
Yes.
Dunning,
Yes.
Wilkie,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Beckfield,
Yes.
Snyder,
Yes.
Leary,
Yes.
DeLuca,
Yes.
Jansen,
Yes.
Schroffnagel. Supervisor Schroffnagel?
She's saying yes, but she's muted.
All right. Roberts,
Yes.
Kronk,
Yes.
and Christofferson.
Yes.
Well, that's unanimous. Much easier than I thought it would be. Thank you for going to the trouble, Clerk McDonald. The rule has now been suspended, and file 39 is now before us. The chair looks for a motion.
I'll make that motion to approve the
Dunning seconds.
Dunning moves, Dunning seconds. It's now before us. From the Airport Commission, Supervisor Stelzis, do you want to handle
Sure.
this? Okay.
Yeah, I can chime in a little bit here. And I
Okay,
think
please.
that Charity is present too, if we would like her to speak to
Oh,
this.
yes, okay, thank you. Go ahead.
But basically, the airport has not raised their rates since, I think, 2006. Charity can correct me. And we are much cheaper than some of the other surrounding airports. Furthermore, they're in the process of installing new automated equipment, whereby you pay your fee and you go into the parking lot. So the timing of this was to be so that the fee increase would be concurrent with the installation of the new equipment. And perhaps the equipment might come in a little bit earlier than anticipated. And hence, it probably makes sense to address this at this meeting rather than wait for a moment. But with that, with your permission, I would open it up for Charity to chime in, and she could answer any other questions if there are any.
Okay, without objection, Charity, are you on?
I am, and Supervisor Stell just did a wonderful job with his description, so I honestly don't have anything to add unless there's questions.
Okay, thank you. Questions, comment, or discussion from supervisors?
I have a question.
Supervisor Leary, I see your hand raised.
Thank you. Yes, I noticed that in the fact sheet that it said a fiscal impact of 0, which I assume you were just talking about costs, but how much do you anticipate raising through the increase in the fee, and what do you plan to raise it to?
Charity?
Yes, you're absolutely right. I did only include or anticipate the expense in the fiscal impact. So the revenue, the estimated revenue, which would fluctuate from year to year, of course, based on utilization, but the estimate is around $25,000 to $30,000 a year, and the rate would go from $5 per day to $7 per day.
Other question or comment? I see no hands raised. I hear no voices. Supervisors, I assume you're prepared to vote on this. Tim, because this has to do with the financial amount, does this require a 2/3? I don't think it does.
I don't believe so. We're not changing a budget.
All right, okay. All right, we'll do this by a voice vote. I'm going to rely on the fact that I may be making the right guess this time. So all those in favor of file 39, please indicate by saying aye.
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 All those opposed by nay. It is unanimous. Thank you. Next, under item 10, reports of standing committees, commissions, and boards under 2.04.160 and second reading of ordinances from the Committee on Administration, file 24.
An ordinance to amend section 2.04.010C of the code, Rule 1, meetings.
Motion?
Kronk with a motion.
Supervisor Kronk moves.
Coffee seconds.
Was that you, Supervisor Wilkie?
Supervisor Coffee actually
Oh, sorry.
before
Sorry.
me.
Sorry, thank you.
We're working together.
Yes.
Well, I'll pick Supervisor Coffee. Seconds. Background, Corp Counsel.
This is an ordinance to amend subsection C of section 2.04.010 of the code. That code section has to deal with the annual budget hearing. And right now what it reads is the meeting on the first Tuesday in November in each year shall be the annual meeting, at which time the board shall, first of all, conduct a public hearing on and thereafter adopt the county budget. We're asking the amendment to delete that portion that says conduct a public hearing on and thereafter. And then what we're doing is inserting after the word business. And so after that language, it says adopt the county budget and a tax levy for ensuing fiscal year in addition to its regular business. The board, and this is what we're inserting, the board shall hold a public hearing on the budget in accordance with Wisconsin Statute 65.90 sub 3 on an annual basis at its October meeting. So what we're doing is we're moving the budget hearing, the public hearing portion of it, from the November meeting to the meeting in October. So we have actually the public hearing prior to the budget hearing in November. It's done contemporaneous with when the county administrator will be presenting her budget. It also gives then the board more time to consider the budget on the November 2nd meeting this year, and takes away that obligation to hold a public hearing at the same time that you're considering the budget. You've had then an opportunity to hear from the public prior to the consideration of the budget. So that's the purpose of this, is to just move the public hearing to the month earlier meeting, the October meeting, as opposed to keeping it in the November meeting.
Thank you. Questions or comments?
Pagonis with a question.
Supervisor Pagonis.
Do we only have one meeting in October? Don't we have 2 meetings in October?
I think we do have 2 meetings in October, yes.
Okay, well, the way this is written, it says on an annual basis at its October meeting, and that it just implies to me that it would be a single meeting. How does that get determined? Maybe it should say at the 2nd October meeting or something.
And that would be fair. Let me just double check real quick to make sure we have 2 meetings.
Yeah, it just seems odd the way it's written. And Connie Russell is nodding, so I must be right. Okay, thank you, Connie.
Give me 2 seconds, please. Wait for my computer here.
Tim, I've got the schedule here, and there's a meeting on the 5th and the 19th.
Okay. So
And this is the administrator, if I may, Tim. I think the intent, thank you. I think the intent was to have that public hearing at the same time that we had the budget being rolled out at the first meeting, so that the board as well as the community had time to contemplate it, discuss it, and work through what is being proposed.
When would the finance committee be getting the budget? You know, so would it be just presented to us right at the same time?
October 1st, right?
Yes, it would, and the budget would be presented to the board and then transition to the finance committee.
Did that answer your question, Supervisor Leary? Okay.
Pagonis with a follow-up question then.
Supervisor Pagonis.
If it's, I don't understand the administrator's comment, because if it's presented the first week in October, then how would the public have the opportunity to review it adequately by October 5th? It seems pretty quick.
So at the same time, you would have the budget presented. Well, I suppose you could do it either way. You could have it presented that night, have comment that night, or present it that night, and then they have their comment at the subsequent meeting in October.
Supervisor Pagonis, I believe your point is well taken.
Mm-hmm.
Schneider with an amendment?
Just a moment, please. It may require that distance of 2 meetings for the public to have time to digest. Supervisor Schneider, excuse me.
I'd like to suggest amending what was presented to say at its second. The public comment happens at the 2nd October meeting.
I think the Administrator Schauf suggestion that it be held at both meetings be more apropos.
Hold on. Before we have a motion on it, I'd like to get the feedback from the Corp Counsel, who was originally going to check that. Tim?
Yeah, I think we need to have an amendment there.
Okay, thank you.
The question is whether it's the first or the second meeting. And so, you know, I don't think the amendment or the motion for the amendment is out of line.
Thank you. Supervisor Schneider, please proceed.
So I'd like to move that we amend to say public comment at the second October meeting.
Public hearing.
Right.
Okay. So the motion.
Supervisor Dunning, would we not have public hearing at the first one then?
Excuse me, Supervisor Dunning, we have a motion on the floor. I'd look for a second and then we'll have the discussion.
Leary seconds.
Supervisor Roberts second.
Leary seconds. Supervisor Dunning, you had a question then. Sorry.
Yes, would we be still able to have the public hearing at the first session also, as was suggested?
Supervisor Schneider, do you want to answer that question?
There would still be public comment because there's always public comment, but I was not foreseeing a public hearing because the public is only going to have had access to it for maybe 1 or 2 days. So I doubt they'd get to it any quicker than we would.
Supervisor Dunning, did that answer your question?
Yes.
Yes, okay. Other question or comment regarding the amendment?
Just if I could offer a point of clarification. Wisconsin Statute 6590 does require that there be a public hearing. Doesn't say that it has to be at that time in November. It says that we have to have one prior to adoption of the budget. So it could be at the first, could be at the second. But Supervisor Schneider's comment that we would have public comment at the first meeting and a public hearing at the second, that's totally appropriate as far as I understand the statute. So.
Thank you for the clarification. Any other question or discussion regarding this amendment?
I just wanted to clarify, the administrator would be presenting it though at the first October meeting, correct?
Administrator Schauf?
Yes, that is correct. You would
Okay.
have the budget at that first meeting and then the public hearing at the second meeting and
That
then
makes
final
sense.
adoption in November.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you. Other question or comment on the amendment?
Supervisor Cronk with a question, a clarifying question.
Supervisor Cronk.
What is the time frame on that public hearing? Is there a time frame imposed? Length of time for the public hearing portion?
Well, I believe that would come up when we constitute the agenda, and I'm assuming that would form a major portion of that meeting. I don't know that we can answer that question directly with a minute count.
Well, historically, Chairman Smeyer, if I might add,
Please,
when we
yes.
had that hearing, it would start at the beginning of the meeting, and the ordinance said we had to adjourn by 11 p.m., but there was no limit placed on the amount of time. Sometimes we had the hearings go until after 10 o'clock at night. And then I remember one time we didn't start actually work on the budget until about 10:30, and then we had to vote to extend the time that night a little bit, but people didn't make a lot of sense. So we did go quite late on the next day. But so there's really no limit on the public comment as long as they don't go speak more than once and so many minutes. But there's no, I mean, they could go till 11 o'clock at night.
Well, I want to make sure we're talking about public hearing here, not public comment. But
Excuse me, I was talking about the public hearing.
Hearing, yes, okay. Well, the scenario that you just described is exactly what we're trying to avoid, having a very long meeting by having this hearing earlier. So to answer the question very directly, I would think at this point that the principal purpose of the second meeting in October would be the public hearing. And I'm hesitant to put a time on it. And any suggestions here to help me to resolve this?
If I may.
We don't have to do that now, but I'm trying to answer the question.
Well,
Sure.
to answer the question, the code does require that meetings be adjourned by 11 p.m. That's all meetings.
So there's your answer, 4 hours maximum.
Thank
Okay,
you.
we'll let it go at that. Did I hear another voice?
Supervisor Cronk saying thank you for the clarification.
Okay, thank you, Supervisor Cronk. Any other question or comment in regard to the amendment to this file? I hear none. I see no hands raised. Supervisors, we will vote on the amendment. All those in favor of the amendment, please indicate by saying aye.
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 All those opposed by nay. The amendment passes. We are back to the original file. File 24. Is there any further discussion? Any other questions or comments on file 24 as amended? Any other comment or discussion? I assume you're ready to vote. All those in favor of file 24 as amended, please indicate by saying aye.
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 All those opposed by nay. It is unanimous. Thank you. Next from the Committee Administration is file 43.
A resolution authorizing a special meeting for November 9th, 2021 to approve the final redistricting plan pursuant to Wisconsin Statutes, section 59.103B.
Motion.
So move.
Moved by
Supervisor
Supervisor Bates. Second.
Beckfield.
Supervisor Beckfield seconds. Thank you. Background, I will ask Corp Counsel to provide the background for this also.
Sure. Earlier tonight, you heard the presentation from Administrator Schauf about the compressed timeline for the redistricting process this year. Due to the fact that we have a late delivery of the census information. Right now, as it stands, in order for the county clerk to get her publication done in time for the spring elections, in other words, for candidates who are going to take out papers for the spring election, we need to know what their districts are. She needs to make that publication prior to November 23rd of 2021. Under the compressed timeline, we would have to have a meeting in November in order to approve the final redistricting plan and have a hearing for the public. And so we're proposing that there be a special meeting on November 9th of 2021. In November, normally there's only one meeting scheduled, that is the budget meeting. This year that's scheduled for the 2nd and 3rd. Because this requires a public hearing, we didn't know that that would fit in with the same timeline of doing the budget meeting. So it's being proposed that a week later on November 9th, there'd be a special meeting for the sole purpose of holding the public hearing and adopting the final supervisory district plan.
Thank you. Questions or comments?
Question, is there usually much comment on that?
We don't have a usual. This happens once every 10 years. So this is a one-time only meeting. Did that answer your question, Supervisor Schneider?
Yes.
Okay. Other question or comment? I hear none. Supervisors, we are now voting on file 43. All those in favor of file 43, please indicate by saying aye.
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 All those opposed by nay.
Aye.
I heard one voice. Was that a nay? Did I have one nay? Or was that a
I
late?
think it was a late aye.
Late aye, okay. Thank you. The chair determines that was a
Slow
unanimous
broadband.
vote. Thank you. Next is from the Committee on Judiciary and Law Enforcement, file 10.
An ordinance creating section 9.85.030 of the county code, forfeiture, amending section 1.50.020 of the code, schedule of deposits.
Motion?
Motion to approve, Supervisor Wilkie.
Supervisor Wilkie moves.
Second by Roberts.
Second by Supervisor Roberts. Thank you. Explanation, Supervisor Wilkie?
Yes, this comes to you from Judiciary and Law, the second piece of the effort that's being brought forward. What this ordinance does is give law enforcement the option to avoid labeling the citizens of our community as criminals. It also gives the district attorney's office the option that if the individual were charged under state statutes, the district attorney's office could lower the offense to an ordinance, thereby not labeling somebody for having marijuana in their possession, a small amount, or marijuana paraphernalia in their possession. Changes it to an ordinance and a $1 fine. If the chair will so allow, I would like to defer any further comment to the author of this ordinance, Supervisor Roberts. She did extensive research on this.
Supervisor Roberts.
Thank you, Chair Smyer and Chair Wilkie. This ordinance will reduce the fine for marijuana and marijuana paraphernalia to $1 for Eau Claire County. As far as criminal justice reform is concerned, it's a baby step in the right direction. But what have we learned along the way? We learned that despite being completely surrounded by some form of legal marijuana, that Wisconsin is one of 17 states that saw an increase in possession arrests, and that simple possession arrests account for 92% of all marijuana-related arrests. We learned that the prohibition from its very inception was racially motivated. We learned that the war on drugs was intended to cause the arrest of marginalized people, in some places more than 4 times the amount of the general population. We know that 83% of Wisconsinites want marijuana legalized in some capacity. One noteworthy new development is that Senator Agard and others, including Representative Emerson, have introduced a bill at the state level for legalization. But unless we continue to put pressure on our state legislature, the bill will likely fail. So tonight I ask you to approve this ordinance and speak as loudly as you did when you passed the resolution asking the state to legalize or decriminalize marijuana earlier this year. Thank you.
Other question or comment?
McKinney, comment or
Supervisor
question?
McKinney.
I'm still questioning if the city, the county, and the UW system deal with this in the same manner.
I'm not sure who could answer that question. Supervisor Wilkie, can you answer that?
Well, the city of Eau Claire has its ordinance. The county will have its ordinance. What those other jurisdictions do is really in their hands. I would hope that efforts would be made that we would expand this within those municipalities throughout our county. Unfortunately, till that happens, it'd be the luck of the draw for an individual if they're in the city of Eau Claire or in the county jurisdiction if this option is afforded law enforcement when encountering individuals, our citizens having small amounts of marijuana. But we're second in line of doing what I think is a good thing. Hope there's third, fourth, fifth, and hopefully eventually statewide that decriminalize at least the possession of small amounts of marijuana.
Corp Counsel, did you want to weigh in on that? Tim?
Well, I think that's essentially correct. And what you need to understand also is the state statutes define when possession of marijuana becomes a crime. What we're talking about here is a forfeiture. It's a citation. Basically, if you have under certain amounts of marijuana, you can receive a forfeiture or a fine. And here what we're doing is the proposal is to reduce the fine to $1 if you receive a county ordinance violation for possession of marijuana. Certainly, if you have more marijuana, then the district attorney has the discretion and the authority to charge a criminal matter if, in fact, they deem it appropriate. That is not going to be changed by this ordinance. It just changes the fine for those citations that are written under the county ordinance is what they are.
Supervisor McKinney, does that answer your question?
So just clarify that this attains to only county then.
This Supervisor Dunning, if you look at paragraph 2 of that, it says that previously the city of Eau Claire modified their forfeiture for possession of marijuana to $1.
So we're just voting on county, right?
Yes, tonight that is our vote.
But the city is
Carl Anton with a question.
Supervisor Anton.
Does that include all of the parts of the county except for Eau Claire? In other words, Altoona, Fall Creek, Augusta, and other places? All part of the county?
It is when a county ordinance violation is written. So depending on where it's written and who writes it and how they decide to write it, if they write a county ordinance violation and it's under a certain amount, the fine would be $1. If I'm in the city of Altoona and Altoona has its own ordinance with regards to possession of marijuana, the police officer there would have the discretion to either issue a county citation or a citation under the Altoona code. So Altoona can have a different violation amount.
Thank you.
I think I heard another voice. Was there someone else who wished to speak? Is there any other comment or question?
Supervisor Cronk with the
Supervisor Cronk, go ahead.
Thank you. I have two questions. How will this be tracked? Will the changes be tracked as far as I know there's been work to have data reported through the CJCC's website, and I'm just curious if that might continue to show for Supervisor Roberts' fact sheet, really that we've had an improvement, that we aside from pressing the state to legalize for the reasons that Supervisor Roberts has mentioned, and I'm in full support of this. I'm just wondering, I was a little concerned when I heard Supervisor Wilkie's comments, and the points are extremely well taken, that the officers have an option. And I think when officers have an option, or the courts sometimes have an option, we've ended up in the position that we're in now, where we're saying that there are biases, there have been disparities in citations and sentencing and things like that. I think we've had that discussion throughout. And I'm just curious, A, how has that been tracked? And then B, a question about diversion. Does the cost of diversion, if somebody gets a citation and they don't want it perhaps on their record, but they do want to go through a diversion program, can somebody please remind me of that cost?
Supervisor Roberts, do you want to respond to that? You don't have to.
Well, I think sure. I think the first question is that through the tracking that is already in place, it does drill down into which drugs are used from the last time I went out and kind of played around with the tracking dashboards for the CJCC and the and you know, when we look at it through judiciary and law. So I think that it would show it within the tracking dashboard. And as to the second part, I don't know on the diversion. I don't know how to answer that question.
Is there anyone who can answer that? Corp Counsel, can you answer that?
I cannot. I know that at one time we did have a diversion for underage drinking. I'm not aware of whether or not there's a diversion program for possession of marijuana.
Okay, thank you. Supervisor Crunk.
I was just going to say, I don't think the CJCC data right now reflects this. And I guess I'm just asking about demographical tracking. I think it could be helpful to the county to track this moving forward as this hopefully passes. And I think Supervisor Wilkie may have had some insight because I see him raising his hand. Thank you.
Supervisor Wilkie, I see your hand raised.
I don't know if I could call it insights or not, Supervisor Cronk. I share some of the concerns that you just described, and I don't want to leave any delusion that it addresses those. They need to be addressed, and I think it's worthy of you raising the point. But it doesn't take in all of what you just said.
The questions that you raised, Supervisor Cronk, are interesting questions, but they may not be relevant to our action tonight. So I'm going to suggest that we proceed in regard to the action that's before us tonight. And perhaps, I'm not sure, but perhaps CJCC might be the venue for more detailed questions about how this all will be tracked. Are there other questions or other discussions? Okay, I see none. Oh, I'm sorry, Supervisor Anderson, I see your hand raised. Sorry.
Oh, I guess my question was already asked. But other than that, I'd just like to voice my support and encourage the support of the board.
Okay, thank you. My apologies, I'm not doing a good job of watching the hands. Okay, we're going to proceed to a vote now on file 10. All those in favor of file 10, please indicate by saying aye.
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 All
Aye.
those opposed, sorry, all those opposed by nay.
Nay.
The ayes have it. Thank you. We will proceed now to Committee on Planning and Development, file 29.
An ordinance amending the 1982 official zoning district boundary map for the town of Union.
Motion.
So moved.
Moved by Supervisor Bates, second.
Second by Leary.
Second.
Second by Leary.
Second by Supervisor Leary. Thank you. Explanation, Supervisor Gibson.
Thank you, Chairman Smyer. I'm glad you didn't get me confused with Supervisor Shilson this time.
It's hard to confuse the two of you, but it would be better if I could see your face. That would help.
Well, if I didn't have such bad internet connections out here in the wilderness, we could probably do that.
Talk to Dr. Mowry about broadband expansion.
Yeah.
Please go ahead, Supervisor Gibson.
All right. This is to rezone 0.7 acres of land from RH Homes to the District C Highway Business to be developed in conjunction with the adjacent C3 zoned property already as an explanation for the big rig towing site, which is located south across from Chuck Lane. Now, this the county and the town of Union's comprehensive plans, the future land use maps, both include this property in the commercial industry planning area. Now, the staff's conclusions were, staff finds that the proposed rezoning request substantially conforms with the Eau Claire County Comprehensive Plan, and the comprehensive plan recognizes that the proposed C3 zoning district is consistent within the mapped future land use map. County Union considered this rezoning, and they recommended approval 3-0. We held our public comments and for the committee, and we voted 4-0 in favor. Now, for the county board's benefit, what I've requested here recently, which now this is probably the first time you've ever seen it, is the Planning and Development Department does a very good job of going through to follow state statutes and county codes anytime any rezoning comes up. So I have asked for them to include in the comment sheet, or the fact sheet, I should say, the findings for these based on county or state statutes and county codes, and what the findings may be against it, just in case somebody wanted to vote against it. So those are now going to be included in our packets. So that's it.
Thank you. Questions or comments? Questions or comments? Any questions or comments? I hear none. I see no hands raised. So we will proceed to vote on file 29. All those in favor of file 29, please indicate by saying aye.
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 All those opposed by nay. Thank you. Well, now it is unanimous. Thank you. We'll move on to file from the Highway Committee, file 26.
An ordinance to create section 12.34.600 of the code. Working in county highway right-of-way. To create section 12.34.700. Bicycle and pedestrian routes on county highways.
Motion.
Henning will move.
Henning,
second.
Henning moves, Gatlin seconds. Explanation, Supervisor Henning.
I'm going to turn this over to our big boy, John. He's got all the
Director Johnson, otherwise known as Big Boy Johnson.
Thank you, Supervisor Henning. So before you are two items. The first item is in reference to highway right-of-way, to work in the highway right-of-way. Currently, we do not have a permit or process for a landowner, contractor to obtain a permit to work in the right-of-way. We do have for utilities, and we have access permits, but it is common to have requests to work in the right-of-way. So this is to formalize that process. Examples of that would be somebody who wants to do some grading along their driveway to fix a washout, or maybe some issues along their lawn where there's no implications to the highway itself. We have received quite a few of these requests, especially this year, I think, with a lot of people wanting to complete projects around their house. So that's what this is in regards to. This formalizes it. There's no fee. We feel that's the best way to go, so that we get participation from the property owner, that we can review and just make sure that there's no issues, rather than somebody, in a lot of cases, we see driveways getting constructed without our modifications, without reaching out to us. So that's a compliance thing there. So the second part of this, in this section of 1234.700, is for codifying the application process for a bicycle and pedestrian route on a county road. We do have an application process. This is part of our comprehensive pedestrian and bike plan. And so this is just getting things caught up with our code to make sure we have that process formalized.
Thank you. Questions or comments? Any questions or comments? I hear none. I see no hands raised. Supervisors will proceed to a vote on file 26. All those in favor of file 26, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed by nay. It is unanimous. Thank you. Next is file 17.
An ordinance to create section 12.34.250 of the code, highway setbacks, to amend section 1.50.020 of the code, schedule of deposits, to amend section 1.50.030, issuance of citations.
Thank you. Motion.
Gatlin
So
motion.
Gatlin moves.
Second, Bates.
Bates seconds. Thank you. Explanation, Supervisor Henning, or is it Big Boy Johnson again?
Well, I can take care of two of the amendments that you read on line 27. And if the setback is not addressed in the zoning code section 88 or 1822-020, then the minimum setback area is within 63 feet of the center line of the highway or within 30 feet of the near right of way of the highway, whichever is furthest from the center line. Our amendments is on line 27, changing the 63 feet to 83 feet, and on line 28, changing the 30 feet to 50 feet. That's our amendment.
Thank
Mr.
you.
Chairman, we did skip this item. Item number 17 was not just read by Clerk McDonald. Just so if everybody's confused right now, we didn't miss the introduction to this item.
I'm sorry. I apologize.
File 17.
I thought the clerk read it. The clerk did not read file 17?
No.
No?
Yes, she did.
What did I read?
Yes, she
For
did.
the highway
did?
setbacks?
Yes, she read it.
Yeah.
Yes,
Oh,
she
I'm
read it.
sorry. I thought we
Yeah,
skipped to
I
file
did read
28.
it.
I'm sorry, Sue. Okay.
That's
Henning just didn't explain it. He just went right to his amendments.
Okay. Thank you.
Right.
you may have your title Big Boy back again. And
Thank
that's the last time I'll say that tonight. Okay. Questions or comment on file 17?
So just to provide some more information to the board, this is in unzoned townships where I communicated with the chairpersons there, where they currently do communicate to property owners. Setbacks are commonly found in zoned townships. So they're all in favor of this. In what's happening is a lot of property owners are calling us asking for setback information, but we do not have anything in our current code because they are unzoned. So there are no setbacks. So this clarifies this and provides that setback distance that many property owners are asking for in the unzoned townships that we have in Eau Claire County.
Thank you. Further question or comment?
Do we vote on his amendment first, or do we vote on the?
No, we have to vote on the whole file, 17.
Mr.
An
Chairman,
amendment was offered.
Mr.
It was an
Chairman,
amendment.
Yeah. Wait, hold on, please. Supervisor Wilkie, are you making a clarification?
trying to clarify
Okay.
what we're doing right now. I don't think we have amendment before us. I think and I can be corrected, Supervisor was saying we're voting on the highway setbacks to amend a section. Or am I mistaken?
There was an amendment in the packet.
Okay,
Hold
then
on.
I am
Commissioner Meyer,
mistaken.
can I clarify,
Hold on. Let's
Commissioner
have some order here. My understanding is file 17 is to create a section and to amend section 1.50.020. Both actions are contained in file 17. Is that correct?
That's correct, but there's also a proposed amendment to this particular ordinance. That's what Supervisor Henning was talking about. And there has not been a motion to adopt the amendment or a second or a vote on that amendment.
I did not hear an amendment, so we can go back to that if you wish. We are now talking about file 17. Supervisor Henning, did you wish to propose an amendment to file 17?
Yes.
Would you please state your amendment?
Chair Schreier, that is a written amendment that was provided to the board members, I believe, prior to the start of the meeting. It is,
I'm sorry, I don't have that in front of me.
okay, I'll read it to you quickly. It's on line
please do.
20, line 27. You're deleting 63 feet and inserting 83 feet. On line 28, after the word within, delete 30 feet and inserting 50 feet. You're just changing the amount of setback in those two areas in subparagraph C on the first page.
Okay, thank you. That's much clearer.
Leary will second the amendment.
Okay, thank you. I just want to check. Clerk McDonald, do you have that amendment?
I do not have it. So it was changing 63 feet to what?
83.
83 feet.
83? And then 30 feet to
50 feet. Those are on
50.
lines 27 and 28 of
Yep.
page 1 of the ordinance.
Okay.
Thank you.
So now we know what the amendment is. We have a second to the amendment. Is there any discussion of the amendment? I hear none. All those in favor of the amendment as stated, please indicate by saying aye.
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 All those opposed by nay. It's unanimous. Thank you. We are back to file 17 as amended. Is there any further discussion of file 17 as amended? I hear none. All those in favor of file 17 as amended, please indicate by saying aye.
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 All those opposed by nay. It's unanimous. Thank you. From the Committee on Finance and Budget, file 28.
An ordinance to repeal sections 4.09.040, 10.20.010, A3, and section 10.20.015 of the county code, vehicle impoundment and towing charges.
Motion.
Wilkie moves.
Wilkie moves.
Coffee seconds.
Coffee seconds. Thank you. Explanation, Supervisor Pagonis.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is pretty self-explanatory. The county no longer has an impound lot. We don't tow vehicles, and the ordinance is out of date. So the request is just to repeal it.
Thank you. Questions, comment, discussion?
Coffee, make a comment, please.
Supervisor Coffee.
I just want to update people a bit. If you recall, quite a while back, Lance Basting came before the county board and spoke during public comment, talking about his tow and how it was very costly and he did not understand it. Supervisor Chilson also talked about a customer who had gotten towed and had a very, very high bill. So Supervisor Chilson, Wilkie, and myself got together with the Eau Claire Towing Association to discuss the towing fee inequities that we saw from company to company. Since then, we also understood, and Supervisor Chilson and Wilkie could speak more on this if you'd like, that the towing company has some difficulties. Often these cars are not picked up, and then they end up with some heavy burdens as well. So I think we built a lot of understanding. We also worked with the Sheriff's Department, and on their website, they are going to be listing what they're calling towing hints to help people understand how to avoid this kind of difficulty by simply, for one thing, putting your name and phone number in your locked car so that they can get a hold of you, and then you can choose who you want to tow your car. Once it's a no preference, it goes through the communications center and they rotate any towing association members who are chosen and by the towing association. So we do still want to work with the towing association to try to, and we have a meeting scheduled, Supervisor Wilkie and myself on September 8th. And we would like to work with them to increase transparency about the fees. One of the things that Mr. Bastings said was they told him that if he paid in cash, it was going to be less. There was no detailed bill that was listed as far as storage. Another concern that we have has to do with how long is a day of storage, because often your car is towed for sometime during the day. You get home at 5 o'clock, so everyone pays 2 days of storage no matter what. So maybe there's something about 8 business hours or something, what constitutes a day. The other thing that's not resolved is that if someone is disgruntled about the tow, they really don't have any recourse through the county. So we're hoping that the towing association will have a number that they can resolve some of those towing calls and disgruntled residents, so that they know where the difficulties are in the members of their towing association. Another item that has come up is that if a person has left work items or personal items in their vehicle was stored, can they get those vehicles, like a computer that they might be using for work or tools for a job, out of that car if they can't afford to get the car out? So we will continue to work with the towing association to try to resolve those issues, and can report back if it's deemed interesting to the group. So thank you.
Thank you for that report. Any other comment or question on the file before us? Any other comment or question? All those in favor of file 28, please indicate by saying aye.
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 All those opposed by nay. It is unanimous. Thank you. Next from the Committee on Finance and Budget is file 37.
A resolution authorizing the sale of tax deed property to the town of Washington for $301, directing Corporation Counsel to prepare a quitclaim deed on the described property, and directing the County Clerk to execute said quitclaim deed on behalf of Eau Claire County.
Motion.
So moved.
Supervisor
Dunning
Bates moves, Henning seconds. Thank you. Explanation. I'm sorry?
I thought it was Dunning second.
Oh, sorry, Dunning. I'm having problem recognizing voices this evening. Thank you. Explanation, Supervisor Pagonis.
Thank you. This is also fairly self-explanatory. It's a parcel of property in the town of Washington that went up for a tax deed sale, and the town of Washington has requested to have it returned to them. The $301 covers all the taxes, interest, penalty, and expenses that the county has incurred. And we've talked about this before. We typically, when the municipality asks for a parcel to be returned and they make the county whole, we say fine, rather than putting it out for bid.
Thank you. Question, comment from any supervisor? Question or comment? I see none. All those in favor of file 37, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed by nay. It is unanimous. Thank you. File 36.
A resolution authorizing the sale of tax deed property to former owners Roger and Christina Kohler for $9,815.04. Directing Corporation Counsel to prepare a quitclaim deed on the described property. Directing the County Clerk to execute said quitclaim deed on behalf of Eau Claire County.
Motion.
Motion by Leary.
Supervisor Leary moves.
Second, Hamback-Boyle.
Second by the Hamback-Boyle. Thank you. Explanation, Supervisor Pagonis.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is another tax deed taking, and the former owners who apparently were delinquent in their taxes have decided to request having it back to them. And so they, the $9,815.04 covers the taxes, interest, penalty, and expenses. And I believe by statute, we're required, if the former owners want it back, and are willing to pay the full amount, we're required to do that. So, yes, so it's ministerial.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from supervisors? Questions or comments? See none. All those in favor of file 36, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
All those opposed by nay. It is unanimous. Thank you. File 38.
A resolution disallowing the claim of Germantown Mutual Insurance Company and their insured Sue Nerby sent to the Eau Claire County Sheriff's Office on July 1st, 2021 through the law firm of Yost and Baill, directing County Clerk to notify the claimant of said disallowance.
Motion.
Motion by Supervisor Wilkie.
Wilkie moves. Second.
Bakefield,
Chair. I'm sorry. Let me try that again. Second.
with Beckfield.
Beckfield, thank you. Okay. Explanation. Supervisor Pagonis, do you want to handle this one?
Sure.
Okay.
It's not that complicated.
All right.
So there was an incident in Jackson County. The SWAT team was called out. The Eau Claire SWAT team was called out as part of the overall regional SWAT team. And during the standoff, Miss Nerby's home sustained some damage. So the Miss Nerby's insurance company, through their attorney, are asking for some type of repayment and are making a claim to Eau Claire County. However, the incident occurred in Jackson County, and because it was the SWAT team that was called out to act as, it was a request for assistance, that the SWAT team, even though it was an Eau Claire SWAT team, was deemed to be actually an employee of Jackson County. So Eau Claire County our insurance carrier is requesting that we deny this, and the ball's back in Jackson County Court. No pun intended.
Okay. Questions or comment? Any questions or comment? We'll proceed to a vote. All those in favor of file 38, please indicate by saying aye.
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 All those opposed by nay. It is unanimous. Thank you. The next item on our agenda is appointments. I've made the following appointments that you have listed on the agenda. I would like to handle a confirmation of the appointments to Veteran Service and Broadband in one motion. The chair looks for a motion to confirm the appointments of Angela Deutschlander and Ann Nielsen. Supervisor
Anderson moves.
Bates. I'm sorry, I think Bates had her hand up there. Are you moving that, Supervisor Bates?
Please.
Yeah, thank you. Sorry, who was the other voice?
Anderson, second.
Supervisor Anderson seconds. This is a vote to confirm Angela Deutschlander to the Veteran Service Commission and Ann Nielsen to the Broadband Committee. All those in favor of confirmation of those two appointments, please indicate by saying aye.
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 All those opposed by nay. It is unanimous. Thank you. To the ARPA Funding Task Force, I'd like to go through this by calling out the names. So from the County Board Supervisors, Dane Zook, Zoe Roberts, and Connie Russell. From the county staff, Kathryn Schauf, Tim Sullivan, Norb Kirk, Janice Briggs. The EDI representative would be Pa Tao. The city official, Mike Trolat, City of Altoona. Town official, Jennifer Meyer, Town of Pleasant Valley. Business community, Scott Rogers, Eau Claire Chamber. City County Health Department, Courtney Draxler. And community nonprofit, Tashai Atkins, Director of Community Table. There is one seat missing there, and that is education, the representative of the education community, and that's still in process. It's become a little bit complicated. So that one will come to you at a later date. The chair looks for a motion to confirm the appointments.
Schneider.
Schneider moves.
Freeman
Wilkie
second.
seconds.
I think I heard Wilkie second there. So we have a motion and a second. All those in favor of the appointments as listed, please indicate by saying aye.
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 All those opposed by nay. It's unanimous. Thank you. The last item on our agenda is going to be closed session. I want to caution you that we will go into closed session, we will come out of closed session, and then we will adjourn. We do not adjourn from closed session, so please have patience at the end of the closed session. The chair looks for a motion to enter closed session under Wisconsin Statutes, Section 19.85, Sub 1, Sub G, conferring with legal counsel for the government body who is rendering oral or written legal advice concerning strategy to be adopted by the body with respect to litigation in which it is or is likely to become involved. Motion?
Beckfield so moves.
Beckfield moves.
Henning will second.
Henning seconds. This is done by a roll call vote to go into closed session. Clerk McDonald, will you please call the roll?
Gibson,
Yes.
McKinney,
Present.
No, yes, you have to vote yes or
Oh,
no.
yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Pagonis,
Yes.
Anton,
Yes.
Zook,
Yes.
Pilson,
Yes.
Delgis,
Yes.
Mowry,
Yes.
Coffee,
Yes.
Henning,
Yes.
Bates,
Yes.
Russell,
Yes.
Gatlin,
Yes.
Meyer,
Yes.
Hambuck Boyle,
Yes.
Neiman,
Yes.
Dunning,
Yes.
Wilkie,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Beckfield,
Yes.
Beckfield,
Yes.
Snyder,
Yes.
Leary,
Yes.
DeLuca,
Yes.
Jansen,
Yes.
Strafnagel, Strafnagel,
She's saying yes.
She's having problems
Roberts,
with her audio.
Roberts,
Oh, yes.
Kronk,
Yes.
and Christofferson.
Yes.
Thank you. We are not,
Unanimous.
A
Sorry.
Chair
procedure.
Smyer, this is Samantha. I just want to get everybody out that should not be in this closed
I
session.
was
So
just
just
going
give
to
me
say,
1
all
minute.
those who are not party to this closed session, that is members of the board or the Corp Counsel administrator, please withdraw.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair.
Yes, Supervisor Bates.
If I'm not mistaken, I think the one thing that has to happen is to be sure that the individuals that are on this closed session virtually have to indicate that they are alone in their rooms.
I assume that's probably correct.
This program was brought to you by a cooperation between Newsworks and Eau Claire County.